So when I work with athletes, one of the things I try to do is, you can't just tell them don't think about how big the game is. That's sort of flat out silly. Okay? That's like telling a kid don't think. So what you have to do is you have to give them other things to focus on instead. So if we want to talk about do's and don'ts for pregame psyching, let's talk about having them execute mentally. Okay? Having them execute what I call a championship game plan. So a championship game plan, and I'm going to list a number of things, is a series of goals that they ultimately have control over, that if they execute will increase their chances of performing to their best. And and again, some of these I'm going to reference back to some stuff that I talked about this morning. One of the first goals is you want to make sure you keep your athletes in their hindbrain, out of their front brain. This morning, or maybe it was this afternoon, I don't know, maybe it was yesterday before the clinic started, I talked about the difference between your front brain, which is your thinking brain, your conscious brain, and your hindbrain, which is more your muscle memory. When athletes play their best, they're on automatic, they're in their hindbrain. They're not coaching themselves, they're not thinking themselves through a particular at-bat or through a particular pitch. They're just reacting. Your job as a coach in keeping them out of their front brain is to limit the amount of coaching that you do. One of the biggest mistakes that I see coaches make, especially in the more important games, because in the more important games, who gets more anxious? Well, you guys do, right? And if you're more anxious, you're going to say more. And even if what you're saying is technically correct, it's wrong because your timing is off. The more information you give kids before and during the game, the more chance you have of pushing them into their front brain and getting them thinking. So less is more when we talk about going into games. You know, you don't want to be doing a lot of teaching during the games, because if you're doing teaching during the games, it's too late. That's the stuff that should be going on in practice. So that's number one. Number two, you want to coach the process of the performance, not the outcome. Okay? The outcome will take care of itself. It's a byproduct. What you want to do is you want to try to coach the process. And what does that mean? It means concentration-wise, trying to keep your athletes in the now. All right, now I talked about you can be in the past, you can be thinking about what happened last game, last at bat. You can be in the future, thinking about the outcome, thinking about what if you don't get a hit. Where athletes perform their best is when they stay in the moment, when they stay with what's going on right now. Okay, so that's easier said than done. Okay, so what that means is you have to teach your athletes how to concentrate. And in the last talk, what I talked about was concentration is a two-part skill. You teach your athletes how to concentrate by training them to be aware when their focus drifts and bringing themselves back. So concentration is recognize you drift, come back. What hurts athletes isn't that they lose their focus, because you're working with kids, they're constantly losing their focus. That's not the issue. The issue is you lose your focus, there's a break in concentration, and you don't come back right away. So one of your jobs is to try to help them become aware when they lose their focus and to come back.